Is up, you guys? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we're back at it again with another YouTube video. I haven't done one in a while. I started school, I was busy. What can I say, bro? Right, it's getting dark outside, you know, already, because it's getting to the winter. And anyway, I wanted to react to a scary ass video because I couldn't do it for Halloween, so, next best thing is to do it right now on the weekend. So, we're gonna be reacting to 6 true creepy stories from the middle of nowhere. But we might have 2 parts to this because 30 minutes for one video. I know you guys aren't gonna watch through all of that. So anyway, before I start reacting, I wanted to thank you guys for making me almost hit 80 subs. And if you guys like this video, make sure to give a like and subscribe if you already haven't, and let's get this shit started. Alright, right here, let's go. Fuck you, advertisement. You really think I want to see you right now? Let's go.
My name is Corey, and I've spent a lot, and I mean a lot of time camping, hiking, and hunting. I've seen all kinds of predators, and I've been in some sticky situations. Everything from a tornado heading my way to being tailed by some bears, so I don't exactly frighten easily. This past July, I was out camping near my family's farm in western Iowa, along with my girlfriend Alexa, my best friend Jason, and his new girlfriend, Samantha. Samantha actually had never been camping before, let alone more than a mile off the trail in the middle of a forest. She was understandably nervous, but we were watching out for her. We do have to watch out for prairie rattlers, poison ivy, and even mountain lions in this part of the state. We made camp in a clearing on top of a small hill with a few trees, but we were deep in the woods to be sure. We arrived to make camp, eat, drink, and went to bed by midnight. Nobody had any injury besides a few mosquito bites. Everything was going according to plan until suddenly I woke up to the sound of Samantha screaming at the top of her lungs. I just couldn't believe how loud she was screaming. It was actually insane. I woke up, I guess at the same time as Alexa, grabbed my light and my Glock and ran out. I told her to stay in our tent just in case. Jason was already trying to comfort Samantha, and she was talking, almost babbling about something huge walking through camp and scratching at the tent and making a terrible sound. I told her it could have been a coyote or even a mountain lion. What little food and trash we did have was outside of the camp area, so that wasn't an issue. But I assured her that I would stay up and light the fire again. That I would take turns with Jason watching the fire because our movement and the fire should scare anything away. This seemed to comfort her, and she actually went to sleep in with Alexa. Jason and I both stayed awake talking quietly, watching the fire and checking around camp for tracks and signs. We couldn't see anything obviously wrong or suspicious. It certainly could have been a mountain lion, and this did have me on edge with the girls there. About 30 minutes had passed, and Jason walked just out of the firelight to take a leak. He was off to my left, my tent across the fire in front of me, and Jason's tent behind me. There, off to my empty right, I saw something and heard a large crunch. Jason heard it also and was practically still pulling up his pants, running towards the fire. "What the hell was that?" "That is big," he said. I know, it could be a big cat. Better get your 44 out of your bag too and get that bright tack light, I told him.
I'm just kidding.
He returned with those items, and we waited to illuminate whichever area we heard more movement from next. Then we heard a crunch and a snap. More movement almost directly behind us. We stood up simultaneously and spun around, turning the brightest light on. For just a second, we saw what almost looked like a gorilla-sized and shaped figure disappear back into the trees. At this point, I'm trying to keep it together, and Jason is just frozen. I tell him to snap out of it and that we need to get the fire to grow. Once the fire is larger, we both need to take a position, one in front and one in the back of the tent to protect the girls. We heard this awful grumbling and growling sound for the rest of the night. I have never heard anything like it, and large crunching and snapping sounds continued to emanate from the woods behind Jason's tent and really all around us. Periodically, we would see something move either to our left or right in the clearing just outside the trees. I kept the fire going. I actually had the fire pretty enormous by the end of the night. As soon as the sun started coming up, we packed up. On our way out, we saw large prints in the mud down by a small stream at the base of the hill we were camped on top of. I can't really say anything other than the fact that they basically looked like a huge man's prints. The thing we saw was definitely not a man. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was going to hurt us. I don't know if it was Bigfoot. Frankly, I don't want to know. The way I see it, it's really not relevant because I was thinking it was a mountain lion initially. Those are also dangerous. I won't let this stop me from camping. Sometimes I guess you just hear scary things at night in the woods. Because scary things do live in the woods. I guess that's just part of the adventure.
What the fuck? Okay. What was I gonna say? For this video, we're gonna be watching 3 stories out of 6 because you guys aren't gonna watch the whole video if I reacted to all of it at the same time because, well, I'm not that interesting. Or this video for you guys, if you guys even made it this far. But yeah, so let's continue on with this video. Hopefully I don't get scared shitless, literally. And yeah, let's do this shit. 2 out of 3 scary stories.
I'm a 27-year-old male, and I've lived in the same town pretty much since I could form memories. Until my 25th birthday, I had never been out of the state of Florida, or even further north in the Orlando area. For my birthday, I decided to change that and saved for months to visit some friends I have across the country. I've known them online longer than I've known any of my local friends. The first stop was to visit one of my then best friends, Alice. We don't talk much anymore due to a falling out over her drug-addicted fiance. But at that point we talked and gamed together for hours each week. She lives in North Carolina, close to a large city but in a rural area on 10 acres of former ranch land. Her and her fiance lived in a large trailer in the middle of the property. To the north and east were a few acres of forest, to the west was what used to be farmland, and to the south was a long driveway, some landscaping, and the street. Alright, so the plan was for us to camp out the first 3 nights I was in town, and then Alice, Danny, and Alice's friend Kate, who was down for no-string stuff while I was in town, were going to stay in a nice hotel in the city the remaining 4 I was there. Danny had prepared for my stay by digging out a massive fire pit and collecting tons of firewood. We dropped by the store and stocked up on beer, camp foods, and bug repellent. With a little side stop to a dealer friend of Kate's that hooked us up with medical-grade pot from out of state. This was a whole new experience to me, being city-born and raised with no previous camp experience, so I was really excited. Even though we were only about 500 feet from their trailer, I felt like I was in the great outdoors. The weather was great, only getting to around 70 in the day and dropping to about 60 at night. With clear skies the whole week I was there, so we didn't bother with tents and just set up with sleeping bags. We roasted bratwurst over the huge bonfire Danny built, drank till we were buzzed, passed around the pipe a bit, and blasted music well into the night while chatting and playing drinking games. When it came time to wind down, Alice and Danny set their bags up on one side of the fire while Kate came over with me. We were both too drunk, baked, and too tired to do much of anything, so we just ended up snuggling until we fell asleep. The next day, Danny and I went out into the woods to a stream that cut through their land and a few of their closest neighbors' land for an afternoon of fishing and small game hunting. We ran into one of the neighbors who was out looking for his dog. Said he hadn't seen her in a few days and was getting worried. We told him we would keep an eye out, and Danny told him not to worry, that if she was in the woods there wasn't any predators out there and he expected her to turn up soon. The neighbor continued on and we kept fishing. Around 5 or so, we turned up with a few fish and 2 rabbits. Alice and Danny got to getting them ready to eat. The rabbit was going to be stew meat, and we were just going to cook the fish right over the fire. The night went much the same as the first, drinking, music, games, and hanging out. Not too late, Alice and Danny said they were going inside for a bit, leaving Kate and I to have some privacy. Just gotta say, sex outdoors by a roaring bonfire under a bright, starry sky for someone used to the apartment life was amazing. Almost worth what happened later. A bit after we finished, Alice and Danny came back out and we all hung out a little longer before planning the next day and then calling it a night. We slept under the stars again and it was as beautiful as the first night. Kate and I slept cuddled with me as the big spoon and slept pretty well considering we were on the ground. I woke up sometime between 2 and 5 in the morning. I can't be sure as my phone had died earlier and was charging inside. I had to piss my brains out but was too tired to walk to the house, so I made my way to the big pile of wood by the fire and stepped to the other side facing the forest. I took what had to be the longest piss of my life and went to zip when I thought I saw something moving in the tree line. Something roughly human-shaped, maybe the size and form of a lanky teenager.
No, fuck no.
It stopped,
Like me?
looked dead at me and just stared at me for what seemed to be forever, but was probably close to 5 or 10 seconds before running off into the forest. I didn't think too much of it at the time. I mean, the closest neighbor had a boy about the same height and build, and I figured maybe he was just checking to see if we were still partying to join us. Thought that I may have scared him, being a 6'2", 240-pound bearded bear of a man. I shrugged it off, went back to Kate, and fell asleep. The next day, we hung out inside a bit because a neighbor was burning trash and the smell was carrying on the wind right towards us. We played Xbox in the living room most of the day, and Alice made that rabbit into a damn good stew. Around 5, we went back out and resumed the bonfire activities. The neighbor and his son came over around 7, bringing beer and a big Tupperware container of homemade jerky. We shot the shit for a while before I remembered the night before, and I apologized to the teen for scaring him off. He was very confused, so I explained myself. He told me he had been up all night playing Halo at home and never left the house. I was surprised, but Kate and Alice said I was probably imagining shit and teased me about being a city boy in the country for the first time. I swore by what I saw, but the neighbor just asked us how hard we had been partying and laughed it off. I just dropped it and went back to the previous discussion and card game we had going. Around midnight, the neighbor and his boy headed out in their truck and we decided to turn in for the night, considering the early check-in time and the long drive for the hotel the next morning. Sometime just before sunrise, I woke up with a very uncomfortable feeling. I have bipolar disorder and anxiety issues, and together they cause me some problems, one of which being really bad nightmares. I passed it off as that and shifted to get up to take a leak, but stopped cold when I felt breath on the back of my neck. I almost passed it off as Kate deciding to snuggle me from behind in my sleep, until I woke up enough to realize that she was right in front of me. She was looking right at me, scared out of her mind, crying. I started to turn my head to see who was behind me, and she repeatedly mouthed no silently. The breathing got heavier and raspier, and I felt weight shift behind me. Kate's eyes followed the movement and froze as it stopped. It felt like forever, whatever was behind me just there and us as still as death. Then Alice's phone went off. A text message. A "I'm too fucking tired" grunt came from her direction, followed by her snores. At the same time, whatever was behind me pushed off the ground hard and went into a full run to the tree line and then into the forest. Kate and I laid there until the sun came up, and she refused to speak a word until then. When she finally spoke, she said that she woke up to take a piss just before I woke, and noticed something crouched over us by its shadow. She turned over thinking it was Danny or Alice trying to get one of our lighters, and saw a sickly gray-looking figure that looked like the personification of cancer grin at her. It put its finger over its blistered lips and made a shush sound before grabbing at its crotch and laying down behind me. Fearing for what it might do if she said anything or I turned, she kept quiet and just cried and tried to warn me. We woke up Alice and Danny, who immediately went inside, called the cops, and came out with a shotgun, a rifle, and a pistol. We sat facing the forest with guns ready until an officer came out. He took our statement, but didn't seem to believe us. Maybe the beer cans all over? I don't know. We were shaken as all hell, and not too long after he left, we got our shit and got out of there. The rest of the day was spent in the hotel, just trying to get over the incident. I put on my big boy pants and manned up. I had saved a lot for this trip, and I was going to enjoy it. I was out of that area and safe with a gun at hand. The rest of the trip was fantastic. Great food, awesome sights, and a lot of fun outside of the city. I almost forgot about the whole incident and had put it totally out of my mind until I got to the next leg of my vacation. I had just unpacked in my hotel in Utah when I got a call from Alice. The neighbors with the missing dog had found it, dead, along with several other dead dogs, cats, and rodents. During his search of the woods, he came up on a part belonging to a property that hadn't been lived on in years. In this stretch of the woods, he found a crude shack he said reminded him of a hidden moonshine still or meth lab. Inside, he found dead animals, a bunch of old Playboys, an old mildew-stained and moist-looking mattress, a ton of tiny alcohol bottles, fluid-stained women's underwear, and what looked like crack pipes. He reported it to the police immediately, and they sent out a pretty large team to look into it. They caught a man trying to flee from the scene. Apparently crazy, on drugs, or both. When they detained him, he tried to molest the officers, spit at them, yelled unintelligible nonsense, and touched himself in the back of the cop car. The guy was almost exactly what Kate had seen. Dear psychotic, methed out madman, if I ever see you again, you better hope you get me before I get you. Fucking creep.
We're gonna end the video right here because it's halfway anyway. What the fuck? The first story was okay. The second story? Fuck no. You know what? That just gave me the fucking chills, alright? I am a little scared, alright? But I'm not that scared, you know. Fucking man. I'm a man, alright? Anyway, I hope you guys like this video. And, yeah, get ready for part 2. Coming soon. Yeah. See you guys later.